Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Unwise Girls, your favorite podcast all about Rick Riordan's funny little books. I'm your host, Jacqueline.
And I'm the other host, Jane.
Welcome to the show today, Jane.
Hello.
How you feeling?
I'm pretty good. I had to crunch like hell to submit an essay this afternoon, but I got it finished and submitted with like 10 minutes left on the deadline.
And luckily, you were able to fall right from that essay into these nice little chapters. How are you feeling about it this week?
I think there's some stuff in here that I really like, and there's some stuff in here that I think that's a little bit underwhelming, maybe.
Oh, true. Yeah, I'm curious. I feel pretty similarly. These were packed chapters, folks. This is
a lot happened
for like 3 chapters. This is the most like number of pages that will be. Like, it's only beaten out by one of the 4 chapter ones that we did at the beginning. But also, next one is also going to be pretty long, too. So, good luck, Jane, when you write the summaries.
Oh, fuck.
All right. Should we get right into the summaries, then?
Hell yeah.
Chapter 12. I Go Snowboarding with a Pig. The Artemis Retrieval Squad arrives at an empty little ski town in New Mexico. While looking for a way out, Percy and Bianca talk one-on-one. She talks about her and Nico's confusing journey from their school in D.C. to the road to some hotel to Westover in Maine, then admits that she needed a break from being a big sister 24/7 and was glad that Percy was such a good guy, because seeing that gave her the confidence she needed to have Nico stay at camp. He ends up accidentally admitting to eavesdropping, but he's saved by Zoe and Grover getting back with food, though things take a turn when a warm and naturey breeze passes by, carrying a voice giving some faint warning and causing Grover to collapse. They decide to hightail it, but at the edge of town, they have to fight some gun-toting skeleton cops. And even though they learn some things, like Percy and his Nemea lion coat is bulletproof, Bianca's knife can vaporize skeletons, they're out of luck until a gift from the wilds appears. The Aramanthian boar. It smashes through the skeletons and almost kills the kids on the snowy mountain slopes, where Percy gets Thalia to admit she's afraid of heights, before they realize the boar's purpose, hop on its back, and start riding it west. Percy is a bit confused, but Grover and Zoe clarify for him. That wind was the presence of the Lord of the Wilds, Pan.
I mean, obviously Pan has come back. It's Pride Month.
And Jane, you're a treasure.
Thank you.
Chapter 13. We visit the junkyard of the gods. The boar eventually stops, and the team get off at a junk town in Arizona, one literally surrounded by hills of garbage. As they lay under the stars, they talk about various things, Pan's presence, Bianca's ability to kill skeletons, before moving on to talk about their next stop, Vegas. Hearing this, Bianca freaks out, and this leads to Percy and Grover realizing that she and Nico had a similar experience to the one they did in Vegas. They were trapped in the Lotus Hotel and Casino, but while Annabeth, Percy, and Grover were there for less than a week, Nico and Bianca were there for 70 years. Their puzzling over who got the siblings out is interrupted by the arrival of a limo. It's Ares, who coerces Percy into the limo, where he sees the most beautiful woman he's ever met, the goddess of love, Aphrodite. She reveals that she's orchestrated everything. The poisoned shirt, sending blackjack for Percy, him being able to sneak out of camp, all to set up the perfect tragic love story. She then bids him adieu, and warns him to be safe in Hephaestus' domain of trash. Ares also says goodbye, saying that the only reason he hasn't killed Percy yet is because he could spark the biggest war ever, but that he'll remember the wrath of Ares when he next lifts his sword. As the party travels to the junkyard, they come across various mythic-level items, including a prototype bronze giant anti-theft measure called a Talos, which follows them out of the dump. Eventually, Bianca reveals that she swiped a Mytho-Magic figure because it was the only one Nico didn't have. She gives it to Percy, telling him to give it to Nico if she doesn't come back, and rushes into the Talos to shut it off from the inside. They manage to bring the behemoth down, but Bianca is nowhere to be found. She's lost in the land without rain. Chapter 14. I Have a Damn Problem. The group finds a tow truck at the edge of the dump, and, while the others remain stunned at Bianca's fate, Thalia drives them at it until they reach River Canyon. They walk to the bank and steal some canoes, then pair up in them and are escorted by some naiads to the rapids. Zoe and Percy talk, and she blames herself for pushing Bianca to join because she was hoping to train Bianca up as her replacement. Percy tells Zoe about his dream, and she reveals that she did indeed create Riptide, betraying her family, the Hesperides, and not even getting any credit from the hero she helped retrieve the Golden Apple. Their journey is stopped by the Hoover Dam, and Thalia, Percy, and Grover muse about how it's one of Annabeth's favorites, and comment on the statues known as the Wings of the Republic carved into the cliffside, which were apparently dedicated to Zeus when the dam was built, before cracking up into exhaustion-fueled dam jokes. Everyone else goes inside, but Percy sees that Bessie the cow serpent is in the river and trying to warn him about something. The skeletons are coming. Percy runs inside, ducking the dam metal detectors, but gets caught up in a dam tour group going down to the dam turbines, led by a mysterious dam tour guide with cloudy gray eyes, who tells him that the clever can always find an exit. While wandering around the turbines, he thinks he hears a baddie and swings a sword, but was actually just a sneezing mortal girl named Rachel Elizabeth Dare, who for some reason can see through the mist and freaks out about Percy trying to kill her with a sword while wearing a weird fur coat. Luckily, she's willing to help him escape from the skeletons, which she's also able to see, and Percy gets to the damn cafe where the rest of them are eating burritos. They try to bolt, but are caught between a bunch of skellies until Grover starts a huge damn food fight. Percy thinks back to what the tour guy said, realizing that she was probably Athena, and bids Thalia to pray for Zeus, activating the damn wings of the Republic, which come to life and fly the squad away. So, what'd you think of these damn chapters?
I think you thought that the damn thing was a very funny joke when you wrote it down.
Uh-huh.
But having to repeatedly read it out was torture for you.
No, it was hilarious, actually.
Oh, that's good. Because the effect was funny.
Okay, I'm glad.
No, it sounded like you were suffering.
Oh, I'm always suffering, don't worry.
Oh no, I am worried.
Well, thank you. Speaking of people who are always suffering, these kids.
Yeah, goddamn.
No, seriously. Like, I know that you said there was some... Do you want to start with the good or the bad? Like, what... I know you said there was some stuff you were disappointed by.
I feel like we can get into the good stuff first.
All right, cool.
Good thing. I really like the Dam chapter.
I do too.
At the start, you can really feel like the exhaustion and just like, quickly settling in trauma of one of their friends dying.
Yeah. I think one thing we've talked about a little bit is like the tonal dissonance of like one chapter something terrible happens, then the next chapter they're all cracking jokes.
Mm-hmm.
But this feels so genuinely like they're all like thinking about their friend who's kidnapped and their friend who just died probably, and then they like start making just like the worst stupid puns because they're all so tired and exhausted.
Yeah, it is like the polar opposite of the finale of Sea of Monsters with the fucking party ponies.
It is good in that regard for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What else about the damn chapter are you into?
I mean, it's got a pretty solid chase sequence in the middle of it. I'm curious about Rachel Elizabeth Dare.
I am too.
Because the name, I feel like that rings a bell, but
right?
It's nothing concrete that I can put my finger on. And I'm not going to look it up, obviously.
It feels like one of those names, like one of those like this feels like an important character name.
Percy does keep saying her entire name, so probably, yeah.
Like, it's one of those names that's like, oh, Junie B. Jones. Like, it has a very, like, little kid book protagonist character.
Jacqueline Swampert.
Jacqueline Swampert. That's my name, folks. One thing I noticed, I like Rachel Elizabeth Dare. She's pretty cool. It's interesting that she's a mortal who can see through the mist.
Maybe it's a case of, like, because that must have been common in, like, ancient Greece, right? Because otherwise, all the tales about the heroes wouldn't have been so widespread.
Maybe so, yeah. I mean, I wonder if that's right, or if it's like the gods themselves put the stories out there, or maybe they're like so ingrained in the myth. I wonder, actually. That's interesting.
Hey, speaking of the gods,
the
Hephaestus chapter goes back to like the portrayal of the gods that I love by far the most in this series.
Yes.
Which is that they are a bunch of like selfish, vain pieces of shit who just use humans like chess pieces.
Oh, for sure. Like, I think this also goes back to like how terrifying the gods are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we get Ares again, and he's obviously very scary dude. But Aphrodite
Yeah.
is like an entirely different kind of scary.
You can definitely see like why these two, I don't want to say they're a good fit for each other, but you can see why they're banging behind Hephaestus's back.
They're a power couple for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is the definition of gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, ex, mansplain, manipulate, male wife.
I didn't even know about that second one, but it does kind of fit Ares in these chapters to a T.
A little bit, yeah. But yeah, like Aphrodite has Percy completely entranced, and like he's just like holding up like her mirror for her while she's like saying that she's setting him up for like a horrific tragic ending, that like she's trying to create the next, like the reason that her and Ares are so suited for each other is that they're both looking for like a great war to happen.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that, but yeah, they probably like met and started swapping notes after the Trojan War, huh?
Yeah, it seems like that's probably the case. Like she's like, I want the next great Trojan War, the beautiful romantic tragedy, and he's like, I want the world's biggest war that has ever happened. Their goals are very in line.
Yeah, and I mean, even like Hephaestus is a piece of shit in these chapters.
Indirectly, but
Well, because I feel like, I wonder how deliberately Rick is like playing on the like supermarkets dumping bleach on the food they throw away thing, because he's got a literal junkyard full of trash, but if you try to take anything from his junkyard full of trash, he'll try to kill you with a giant robot.
that does suck. It seems it once again seems very in line with what we know of the gods. It's very
Oh, for
petty.
sure.
It's very like needless. Like I don't. Surely some of this stuff could be used for the good of the world, but it's very like Prometheus getting punished for giving fire to the mortals.
It's Prometheus giving humans collectible minifigure games.
Yeah. Like I'm curious if like the Mytho Magic game is going to become something like bigger or not. Like if there's like a secret meaning to the Mytho Magic figures and cards.
I mean, it was a big enough deal that, I mean, we found that like fan-made version of Mythomagic.
Right.
So I would imagine it at least sticks around as a concept for longer than just this book.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Nico and Bianca more. I want to go back to Rachel Elizabeth Dare really fast for just a second,
Yeah, okay.
because she has some interesting stuff here. She's a fun little character. I want to talk about the way she's described. She's described as having like a red nose, like she's like been sneezing a lot, like she has a cold. She has like frizzy like red brown hair, and she has like a maroon Harvard sweatshirt. Now, what are the three things that are all in common about those descriptions?
What, being red?
Being red. Now, look at her name. Rachel Elizabeth Dare.
Okay, so there's a pattern emerging here.
There's a pattern emerging here. I wonder if like her name was solely chosen just for like, oh, get it? It's like red and she's like red.
That feels like a bizarre decision, if that's all it is.
It does. I'm honestly very curious about it. I wonder.
Like, she has to show up again, right?
Surely she does. Like she's pointed out this. I didn't expect this. Isn't how she like kind of interrupts the flow of the chapter to appear.
Yeah, it almost has the feeling of like a cameo or like a crossover with a show that you haven't seen.
Right. This is when a mysterious scientist comes in to Starling City to help out the Arrow Gang, and it turns out that like a month later, the mysterious scientist goes home and gets struck by lightning and becomes the Flash, and he gets his own TV show.
Yeah, that is kind of the energy it has. Or if it's like a sitcom where it freezes on a random incidental extra and then the audience starts whooping and cheering and you have absolutely no idea who it is.
Right, yeah. It's very much that energy. I wonder what kind of role do you think she'll play?
I feel like maybe like, I don't know, person on the ground, if that makes sense. Like if she is immortal and she's not just, because Riptide didn't hurt her, so she must be immortal.
Right.
So she might end up being like an informant character, maybe doing like helping Grover locate Half-Bloods, maybe. I don't know.
That makes sense. Like she's like the Oracle or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Not the Oracle, the Batman Oracle.
Yes, that is what I mean. The Batman Oracle. I need to clarify because there is an Oracle in this book. Do you want to talk about Nico and Bianca now?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. So Nico and Bianca, the big reveal of them happens in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that the reason Bianca didn't know DC had subways and that everything is weird with them, and we've theorized about this. Were you expecting that they were in the Lotus Hotel and Casino?
I absolutely did not expect that. What did you think?
I mean, I knew it. I remember it for sure.
Oh,
but,
I see.
I think it's a really good twist.
Oh, absolutely. Like, as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes you feel like the elements that are in play aren't just like one-off. It makes you feel like, oh, this is a part of the world that could this isn't just like an obstacle they faced in one book and now it doesn't matter anymore. This is a part of the world that affects things.
Yeah, it addresses one of the things I was complaining about in the first episode of this book, where I was saying, like, you know, I don't feel like Rick's properly capitalizing on and developing stuff from earlier books, but this is a really good way to do that.
Totally. And also, if you think about the timeline of it, it really seems like they must have been in there at the same time.
Oh yeah. Huh.
Like they were our favorite Percy Lightning Thief gang were in there like 2 years ago, and I don't think Nico and Bianca have been out for 2 years.
It doesn't seem that way, yeah, because like how long do you stay in middle school in the US?
3 years in my experience. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade.
I guess it could be possible, but yeah, it's very likely that they were actually in there at the same time.
Yeah, and I really like this twist. I really like how Bianca goes out here is pretty good. I feel like this is a good development of her character. It ends up kind of like, I know that you were not complaining, but just saying like, wow, Bianca's kind of cruel to leave Nico like alone there at camp, just go off her on her own. But like this sort of reinforces that idea of like she's been stuck with him for 70 years, like being in big sister mode 24/7.
Oh yeah, this completely vindicates your retort to me complaining about that.
And to be fair, yours was entirely valid. Like, we still get that side of like, oh, Nico is gonna be damaged here, like no matter what happens. And I really like in the beginning of chapter 14 when Percy is just like looking at the mythomagic figure, like turning it over in his hands and being like, what am I going to tell Nico? Like, it's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I really like the Bianca and Nico stuff in these chapters. I feel like it's maybe like, for Bianca at least, it's too little too late. This is like the first extended amount of time, the first like real conversation Percy has had with Bianca, and it's like a chapter before she dies.
Right.
Like, what we get is good, but I really wish there had been more of it. And I know that like the way the story is structured didn't really allow for it, but then please story the structure differently.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I'm still not sure if she's dead or not, like, because they can't even like find a body or whatever. So that
might just be because it's a kid book. Because like, if she died in there, she is an electrocuted, mangled corpse.
Yeah, because Grover like electrocuted the Talos, and like while she was inside, and Percy was like, "Ooh, hope that's insulated," and like, you know, funny joke and all, but like horrifying also. She definitely died if it wasn't insulated. Grover gets like messed up here.
Grover's not having a good time. Or actually he almost has a good time, and then it goes very bad.
It goes very badly. He's like, he smells his god on the wind. Like there's a really good thing where like the animals on his coffee cup like peel off and become real animals, which feels very like, I don't know. There's something about the idea of like the consumable throw it away coffee cup that's gonna like pollute stuff spawns a bunch of animals. That feels very like in line with, I don't know, some of the low-key environmentalist stuff in this series.
Yeah, or like the disposable rat that Percy bought out of pity, basically.
Right, yeah. And let's talk about the gift that Pan sent.
Big Pig.
Big Pig?
Big Pig.
Oh, Big Pig. Yes, it's a very big pig. Oh, I'm gonna pet it. The Aramanthian boar.
It will murder you if you try.
Maybe so, but it's worth it. Do you know anything about the Erymanthian boar?
Jack and shit.
So this is yet another labor of Hercules.
Uh-huh.
I believe it was something like he had to stop the boar from running amok. It was something like he had to get some wine, or like a centaur told him to do something. I think it might have been Chiron was like, go put it in deep snow and it will stop. And that's that's very in line with what we get here. And like there's a slight possibility that like one version of the myth says that Heracles was like shooting arrows at the boar, and one of them like accidentally hit Chiron and it was like super poisoned. And that one, like Chiron was in so much pain that he was like, I will take Prometheus's place and give up my immortality. And then Heracles was like, well, I'm sympathetic to you because you were like taught me things. So he killed the eagle with an arrow.
Oh, okay. Wait, so is Prometheus out?
In that version of a story.
I see.
But that was kind of off topic, but I just thought it was kind of interesting.
I mean, it is kind of interesting in that, like, between this and kind of between Lightning Thief and Sea of Monsters, we got a pattern developing where, like, Lightning Thief and Sea of Monsters were very Odyssey-inspired.
Right.
And then this one is going to be, looks like it's shaping up to be, like, a retelling of the labors of Hercules. So I wonder if that's maybe the pattern we'll get for the rest of these books. I
wonder about that. Because we've already gotten I say a lot, but we've gotten like 2 labors of Hercules now that I look at it, and some of them have come in other books.
Was Hercules the one who nicked the apple from the thing?
That's the thing. That's one of the things I was going to say. He stole 3 apples from the Hesperides, and so that was one of the labors. Now. Yes. And what you maybe, and this goes back to what we were curious about who the hero was that Zoe helped.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my theory that it was actually Heracles.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
I would have liked the thing that you were talking about with like Theseus is like the like role model of who not to look up to for Percy. I also like the idea that like we're putting all of these heroes on blast.
That is definitely good. I can't believe that we got through that whole episode where we were talking about what a shitbag Theseus is.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't even mention that you could probably just transplant Hades Theseus into this, and it would be exactly the same.
Honestly, I completely forget he exists. He's a funny man, but you know.
We've come far from our roots as a combination Percy Jackson podcast, Hades fancast.
Right,
mostly because we both stopped playing Hades.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Interesting.
What's up?
I was just like glancing. You remember how I was like, well, another thing that Heracles did was hold up the sky for Atlas.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Golden Apples story, and I'm worried that this is maybe spoilers for this book. But I also do kind of just want...
There's an expiration date on spoiler warnings. You've had several thousand years to look up these ancient Greek myths.
Very true. So there's, in one version of the tale, Heracles gets to the garden of the Hesperides, and that's where he finds Atlas holding up the heavens on his shoulders. Mm-hmm. And Heracles is like, I'll hold the sky up for you, and you get the apples for me. I don't know if that'll be what happened, like if there's that history here. I'm very curious.
I would hope so, because that would kind of tie everything that's come up together.
Yeah. Assuming that the general is Atlas, which we can be pretty sure about by this point.
It's definitely Atlas.
Yeah. What else? There's a lot happened.
It's a lot of stuff, but it's also a lot of action.
There's a lot of and it's pretty decent action for the like there's the fun chase scenes, there's the cool Talos fight, there's the pretty like I don't know, there's the desperate like skeleton cop fight.
I'm still not into the skeletons as like recurring antagonists.
I don't know. I'm torn on them. I think that like the idea of like, you know, the regenerating monsters are after you is pretty good.
Yeah, the concept of these like horrible, relentless, undead killing machines stalking you day and night, that could be really good, but I feel like they're just being used as normal thugs.
I feel like there's a little bit more tension to it because like they're talking about how like they can smell them on the wind, and like they're like trying to get away as fast as possible. There's kind of, it's played up a little bit. I kind of wish it was used a bit more, but I think it was at its best with like the fight in the ski town where they were like about to kill everyone before the boar came in.
Yeah, when they are confronted in South Park by the skeletons.
Yeah, come on down to South Park, gonna have ourselves a boar. Christ on a cracker. That's where they learn that Bianca's knife can vaporize skeletons for some reason.
It definitely can't.
It's interesting. It sets up like an interesting little like, oh, I wonder why she can do that, you know?
Yeah, the like setup and payoff stuff with the D'Angelos in general has been really good.
It has been. I think my wish list last episode was like, I hope we get more conversations with like other people than just like Percy and Thalia, and we did get that these chapters.
Yeah, we've gotten like, among other things, a really interesting softening of Zoe's character.
Right, because she is extremely distraught about Bianca's passing.
She is fucked up about this.
Yeah, like she can't even partake in the damn jokes. Like she's just so, and she's on the.
That may just be her age.
Well, okay, but it's you know, she can't even be.
I get what you mean.
Yeah, and she's down on herself about it, and while they're up on the river, but it's good that like we're getting more to her because she was kind of a little bit flat before.
She was literally just the person that Thalia would shout at.
But now she's like more, we understand like who she is, where she comes from, why she probably joined the Hunters, what her place is, what she wants for the future, like how she feels about herself and her role. Like we basically have her as a very fleshed out character now.
Mm-hmm.
And to that extent, I really appreciate that conversation with Percy.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we get like good conversation with all the characters in these chapters. There's the Bianca stuff, obviously, which even if I think that there was too little of it, is still good. I really like Percy's interactions with Grover in these chapters.
Yeah.
Because we were kind of worried that Grover had kind of reached the end of his usefulness as a character in Sea of Monsters.
Right.
But in these chapters, you can really feel like their friendship and how terrified Grover is at the prospect that Percy might have gotten himself killed because he's worried that he wouldn't be able to make another friend.
Yeah. Grover is a character once more.
Thank God.
And like, you know, it has his pan stuff too.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this chapter did a lot for all the characters. We even get some more Thalia stuff. Like we sort of get...
I called that she would be afraid of heights.
Oh, you did call that. I believe, and it is very funny. It's good. It's very good. Like I think when Percy talks to Thalia in that first chapter and he's like, oh, it must be because your mom died. Like, that's... like, obviously she kicks him out for being insensitive, but also there's that feeling that, like, that's not the full story to it.
Yeah. I mean, I like that just, in retrospect, makes it an even stupider thing to say.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's just such a ridiculous little boy. Percy Jackson.
Although speaking of, I do like, because we've kind of, the two modes that we've seen Thalia and Percy in this book have been like, they are either at each other's throats and literally trying to kill each other, or they are like trying desperately to be friendly in a really awkward way. Right. And I like that we get like, after Bianca dies, we get a nice little interaction where Percy just says, oh yeah, I actually really like Thalia when we're not screaming at each other. Yeah, that is really nice. I'm glad that we get that sort of, I guess, confirmation. Mm-hmm. I feel like, because I hadn't really noticed that was the theme of these chapters until we started talking about them. Right. But I feel like this is definitely the equivalent of like mid-Lightning Thief, all the characters are in the back of the illegal zoo truck. And that's the set of chapters where we really get everyone being fleshed out and we get them bonding and coming closer together as a group. And I feel like this is this book's version of that, and it does it, I think, just as well. I think it does.
like I feel like we were kind of worried about like the cohesion of this group and like its interactions and dynamics.
Yeah, I mean, we were straight up rooting for Percy to just not interact with them for several chapters.
I mean, I thought it'd be interesting to see them flesh themselves out amongst each other, but like, yeah, we kind of were wishing for that. And, you know, I'm glad that we've gotten sort of a counter to that. There's a line I want to talk about in chapter 12. It's like when Percy is talking with Bianca, and I really like him talking with Bianca scene overall. Like, it's most of the chapter, it feels like. Or like most of the meat of the chapter is them talking. And, well, until the fight happens, of course. But
yeah, it's conversation, then pig.
Yes. And what's really good is that, like, these characters haven't interacted much before, and suddenly they're, like, the only two people around, and it's got that exact right awkwardness.
It definitely does. As much as I'm ragging on it for not having them interact sooner, it is a very good first interaction.
Yeah, and, like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of true to life, I don't know, that you're not always going to interact with every single person you're around. Sometimes, you know, one person just slips off to the wayside.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that these are awkward teens.
Yeah, if that. Are they even teens yet? Is Percy 13? Percy's 13 now, right?
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was 12 in Lightning Thief, and it's like 2 years later now.
Wasn't he 11 in Lightning Thief?
I could get the book down off my shelf again and check, but I don't want to.
Also, just Google Percy Jackson age.
You do realize it's going to be like 36, died.
It says that he was 12 in the first book. Okay.
Oh, okay. So definitely a teenager.
Yes, definitely a teenager. I honestly just thought that because of Harry Potter, probably, to be honest.
Oh, God.
I mean, you know, I feel like 11 is kind of the default age now for like a beginning of book series kid.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's when you go into like secondary school, I guess.
I suppose so. In like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, sure. But there's a line that he says where he's like, I mean, I was never very comfortable talking one-on-one with girls anyway, referring to Bianca, which is, it's very interesting to me. Like,
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know how true it is either. Like, him and Annabeth obviously had a very rocky start, and so maybe he sees that as like evidence of like him not being like Annabeth especially, you know.
I mean, yeah, and the same deal with Thalia, but like at the start of this book we see that they seem to be the people that he hangs out with.
Percy is like, wow, there's something weird about hanging out with girls. I'm always so uncomfortable when they're like I'm around other girls, but also like I only ever really hang out with other girls. Other girls. Why did I say
Save
other
it for
girls?
the segment.
Okay, I want to. I'll just I'll put it in my pocket anyway. It's interesting characterization. It's interesting.
I mean, you're absolutely correct. Is the thing.
So Bianca and Nico are from the 1930s.
Oh yeah.
What was happening in the 1930s? I wonder.
Great Depression.
That's true. There was another thing happening in the 1930s. That'd be World War II. I believe started at the tail end.
Only a little bit.
A little, but like the beginnings of World War II and like what it means and like what people associate.
It depends on when you count the start.
Yeah.
Because I know some people count it as like Japan invading Manchuria as the start of World War II, and that was like 33.
Right. It depends on your definitions.
It was a fucked up mess anyway.
At the very least, the 30s were where stuff. I don't even want to say where stuff started. You know what I'm saying, though. Like, this is where
shit started to get extremely fucked.
Yes. This is... And so, I to that extent, I'm like, they were there, like... Wait. You just had the same thought I did, didn't you?
I hope not.
What was your thought?
My thought was, are they, like, half-siblings with Hitler?
Ah! I'm gonna have to bleep that out. Oh,
what? That's a legitimate concern to have.
If they're demigods of this time, then yeah, I suppose you're right. Because the big three like contract wouldn't have been established yet.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that's why the Lotus Casino thing was necessary. It was to get around. So Rick didn't just have to say, oh yeah, Hades also banged someone.
Please remember that I beeped that out earlier.
I mean...
You were like, cut that out.
Yeah, but you also spoiled it by saying, oh yeah, it's a big three contract.
Yeah, but I was...
Oh wait,
no.
The Hitler thing's a spoiler as well. Oh, this is a mess.
That's the only reason I said,
Oh, I thought you were just taken aback by just like... generally how horrible it is to think about.
It was a combination. I mean,
okay,
we need to have like a firm decision on like what perspective we're taking on these books and like how many spoilers we'll take into account and how much of a blind ride we really want this to be.
I mean, what percentage of our audience is actually reading along with us at this point? I don't think it's many of them.
It's probably more of a retrospective for people.
Yeah, I feel like it's a retrospective where just one of us doesn't remember most of it.
Right. So I think in the case of things where we do remember it, it's probably okay to talk about.
Okay.
So I guess that's our position, everyone. Thank you for listening to our blabbering. Thank you for partaking of our nectar. Wait, it's a different show.
Wait, no.
Wrong show. Okay. There's an interesting line, an interesting like quirk where
Wait, what was your thought?
My thought? My thought was that this is around the time that the big three had their contract.
Oh, I see. So it was basically the same thought.
Yes. Yes. So there's an interesting little tidbit. I wonder if this was probably not changed in your localization or whatever, but it could have been.
Ooh, okay.
Where they're talking to Bianca, like, who is the president? Like who's the president right now? And it says like she says the name of the current president, which to some extent is I think supposed to be like, this is an out of time, like, you know, this is not supposed to be set in any firm specific age.
I think this is just future proofing it because this book came out just before George Bush's term was up.
That was my other thought, because yes, exactly, like, it's very funny. No, this book came out in 2007. Oh my god.
Oof.
Yeah. Wow, I feel old. Okay.
Not as old as Bianca.
Not as old as Bianca. She's 80 something.
Ha, we're making jokes at the expense of this dead child.
I think one thing for these chapters is that they have a lot of interesting, like, I feel like we're back to firmly, like, this might even exceed The Lightning Thief and, like, interesting American road trip settings.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not just some archway in San Luis.
Yeah. God. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff here. Like, we get a fun ski town that's, like, completely empty because it's, like, winter. Wait.
Shouldn't it be full? It's really snowy. There's enough snow to stop a giant city-destroying ball.
I'm not sure how that... Maybe people only like to go to the slopes in summer. I wonder. And then they go to Arizona with, like, a town that is just, like, also empty, but is, like, instead surrounded by garbage. Terrifying. And then they go to the Hoover Dam.
Does the Hoover Dam actually have two giant bronze angels next to it?
Yes, it does.
That's very strange.
They're called the Wings of the Republic.
That just sounds like a fighter squadron from the Clone Wars or something.
They really do. Oh, they're called the Winged Figures of the Republic.
Wait, the what?
They're called the Winged Figures of the Republic.
I thought you said the Winged Fingers.
The Winged Fingers. No.
It's two giant bronze statues of middle fingers at the river that they managed to dam. That'd
be very good. But no, it was the Winged Figures of the Republic were designed by Oscar J.W. Hansen, a Norwegian-born sculptor, most associated with the Hoover Dam. I can't find anything about them being a monument to Zeus.
I think it's incredibly funny that in a series that has a spin-off dedicated to the Norse gods, we've decided that the monument built by a Norwegian dude is dedicated to the Greek gods.
Very true. I mean, I guess this is before I mean, I don't want to say it's before it was even a twinkle in his eye, but this was much before Magnus Chase came out.
I know, I find it funny.
I find it funny as well. Listeners, look up the winged figures of the Republic. These are some funny statues. I just sent Jane a picture.
Why are his wings so tall?
To fly with.
God, the pose of the feet it sure is something.
This is an OnlyFans pose for sure.
I was about to say, I'm not saying I expect there to be an OnlyFans watermark on this, but
oh yeah, listeners, go to Oscar J.W. Hanson's Wikipedia page.
I'll tweet out a picture of this before we put the episode up.
Okay.
So people know what to look for. I really appreciate in the Talos fight, and especially that chapter as a whole, the way that we go from like out of nowhere conversation with Aphrodite to being distracted by a bunch of shiny things in the junkyard to exciting robot fight, all of which does a really good job of making sure that the reader doesn't think, oh wait, they're in the land without rain now, someone's gonna fucking die, until after it happens. It's really well written.
It's really good at that. It feels a lot like just a junkyard of a chapter, like just like all kinds of random stuff is happening, and like I was reading it and I was like, this is really weird. Like, why is Aphrodite here all of a sudden? Like, what's the pacing here? She didn't even really say anything that important, other than like, kind of like being like, I helped with your quest, which is like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, it's not quite when Ares shows up in Lightning Thief and is like, hey, I have a side quest for you.
No, although Ares does show up here and says, I have a debuff for you, so I guess we'll see how that plays out.
I will say, like, at the top of these chapters, there's a section where Percy is like, oh, I'm really worried about the fact that we have to get Artemis back by the winter solstice.
Oh yeah, they only have like 3 days left or something?
Yeah, and I feel like we've mentioned this before, but it is a sign of the formula getting a little bit repetitive, in that we were talking about, every book, one of Percy's loved ones gets kidnapped. And now we've also got, every book there is a ticking clock where they've only got a few days to solve the problem.
I don't mind the ticking clock as much as the kidnapping. I think a ticking clock can be pretty good suspense. It is a trick, though, that you don't have to use every time.
Yeah, there are other ways to build tension, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I can appreciate it for, like, being something to get you very quickly through different settings and still be able to show off each one of them in, like, your own little way and, like, show off each of the different little set pieces while still having a pretty brisk pace.
I think I'm overly cautious of stuff that feels like it's being repeated from before because of Sea of Monsters.
No, I totally get you. I'm pretty neutral on it. I'm not as neutral. I kind of wish hopefully there is no kidnapping next time.
Fingers crossed.
Next book is the Battle of the Labyrinth. I'm hoping
maybe that'll be a book about Percy getting kidnapped and stuck in a labyrinth.
But if it was just a book about Percy like going through the labyrinth, that'd be really good.
Yeah, I'd be into that.
Yeah, God. Okay, should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a lot in these chapters, but we highlighted all the major stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm basically positive on these. I have some complaints and nitpicks, but they're pretty solid.
Yeah, I like these chapters a good deal.
Definitely.
This is good for the future, I think, of the book. We have 2 episodes left of this. Time surely does fly.
How is he going to fit 9 labors into 6 more chapters?
I mean, okay, let's do a count.
Okay.
We've got the Nemean Lion. That was the first labor.
Yep.
The second one is the Hydra. We've already done that one.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is the Ceryneian Hind, which is, I guess, a really messed up deer.
Whoso list to hunt, I know where is an hind.
Huh?
If anybody in our audience understood that poetry title, I Feel Your Suffering, I'm sorry you had to study that as well.
Okay.
Alternatively, you might just be someone who's heard me complaining about having to study that poem.
No, and this one featured Artemis and Apollo.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the fourth one was the boar, so that's 3 out of 4. The fifth one was the stables. We've arguably already gotten the stables.
We did kind of get the stables.
So that's 4 out of 5. The sixth one is the Stymphalian birds, which showed up last book, so that's 5 out of 6.
Mm-hmm.
The seventh one was the Cretan bull, which was the father of the Minotaur. We haven't gotten a Cretan bull, so that's 5 out of 7.
I feel like it's very rude to call this bull a Cretan.
Yes, you're very right. The mares of Diomedes, or Diomedes maybe, that we haven't encountered any big horses, so
Unfortunate.
So that's 5 out of 8. The belt of Hippolyta, we haven't encountered any Amazons yet, so that's 5 out of 9. And
we live in hope.
The cattle of Geryon, which was about he had to go fight some cows, I guess. Number 11
Another
was
cow?
I guess so. The 11 was the golden apples, so we've gotten that one, and 12 was Cerberus, so we've gotten that one. So we've got like half.
I want to see Cerberus again. I want Annabeth to have a reunion with Cerberus.
I really want to see the big puppy. So we've gotten like over half of them.
Mm-hmm. So you can probably ram like one a chapter into this book, and we'll be good.
Probably, or maybe it'll get spread out amongst the other books, perhaps.
Yeah, because as much as I'm into the idea of like maybe like one book per Greek myth retelling, I guess we've already had their labors pop up in other books, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, should we finish out with our famous segment?
Let's do our famous segment. Percy Jackson is not Sif's head. I'll go first because you already know my answer. This is another astounding feature for Percy, who is, he's got some special feelings about, girls. And trans bisexual Percy lives in my heart forever.
Of course. My pick for this week is Rachel Elizabeth Dare.
Yes.
Who is definitely trans because she was hanging around outside the toilets and clearly didn't know which one to use. I was having an internal panic about that.
She also is wearing like jeans full of holes and like stained with markers. Very trans.
Very.
This is gay kid behavior.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to our podcast today. I've been Jacqueline.
Thank you.
And this has been Jane. If you want to contact us, you can hit us up on Twitter at Unwise Girls. You can also drop us an email at unwisegirlspod@gmail.com. On Twitter, we have our Discord link to our server. Join it. We're awesome. We're in there. It's cool. If you like us, you can support us by downloading our episodes, leaving a nice rating and review, telling your friends would really help, and checking out our Patreon at patreon.com/unwisegirls. For $1 a month, you get a special role in our Discord, marking you as a camp counselor. For $3 a month, you get an even specialer role as a friend of Dionysus and access to all of our bonus content. If you're feeling especially generous, for $5, you get the specialist role of Aphrodite's Chosen, all of our bonus content, and thanks at the end of every episode. I believe on this latest bonus episode we did, what did we talk about?
We talked about being old and not wanting to learn new Yu-Gi-Oh rules. I learned that dart frogs don't actually shoot darts. And we talked some more about Homestuck.
Yes. And thank you to all our patrons.
This week we'd like to thank Mercy, Veronica Friend, and Erica, This Bitch Forgot Her Too, Time to Roast Her Ass, Faye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
We're sorry.
We're sorry. Oh, gosh. And as we always say, at the end of every single episode...
See you next week, Camp Half-Blood.
See you next week, Camp Half-Blood. Bye.
Bye-bye. Erica, This Bitch Forgot Her Too, Time to Roast Her Ass, Faye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
We're sorry.
We're sorry. Oh, gosh. And as we always say, at the end of every single episode...
See you next week, Camp Half-Blood.
See you next week, Camp Half-Blood. Bye.
Bye-bye.